fire Kevin Stefanski or trade Shedeur Sanders. The Cleveland Brown brass, especially the GM, Andrew Berry, must make a decision at the end of this year. Either they fire their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, or trade Shedeur Sanders. And also, we're going to talk about the ex-former NFL players. Boy, they didn't hold back when it came to
tying two-point conversion, going with the Wildcat. It was a disaster. After Shedeur had shown again and again, he's the answer in the red zone for the Cleveland Browns. Shedeur Sanders just played by far his best game as a pro. He just threw for 364 yards and 3 touchdowns and led the Browns in rushing and scored a rushing touchdown from 7.
Deion Sanders didn't just raise an eyebrow, he blew the ceiling off the conversation. What began as a so-called coaching choice spiraled fast into something far uglier, far louder, and impossible to walk back. 1 second it was framed as football strategy. The next it looked like a full-blown public implosion wrapped in bright lights and national attention. This wasn't just about play calling anymore. It was about respect, accountability, and a line that clearly got crossed.
He was willing to sabotage the season as long as he can keep Gabriel the starter. But what he just did today, he did it right in front of our faces. You took Shedeur Sanders out of the game after 4 touchdowns and almost a game-tying drive after he scored 6 points. You took him out of the game-tying 2-point conversion to run an option play that hasn't worked all game long. And I thought to myself, maybe he didn't call that play. Maybe he's not calling plays. He confirmed he's calling every single play. So this just comes back down to he has the same representation as Dylan Gabriel. He did not want Shedeur to shine, and when
people immediately started asking the same question from every angle. Was this tough love, poor judgment, or a deeper problem hiding behind polished press conferences and coach speak? Because when Coach Prime senses something isn't right around Shedeur Sanders, he doesn't hint or dance around it. He strikes straight at the source. And when that happens, the fallout never stays quiet. The reaction online didn't build slowly. It exploded. Fans, former players, analysts, everyone started connecting dots that Cleveland probably hoped would stay buried. Inside the Browns facility, something shifted. The energy didn't feel like football anymore. It felt tense, heavy, and confrontational. Not a locker room built on trust and development, but something closer to a courtroom. Loud, uncomfortable, and full of unanswered questions. The kind of place where accountability is demanded, not suggested. Cleveland somehow managed to aggravate the one man in football who treats disrespect like a challenge, not an accident. Deion Sanders had clearly seen enough. And history has already taught us that once Coach Prime reaches that point, things don't cool down. They heat up fast. Whoever pushed him there usually regrets it.
All of the different headlines, all of the different stories coming out about the Cleveland Browns, but no bigger story means more than what we finna talk about today, and that is Kevin Stefanski keeping his job. We've seen coaches across the league be fired throughout the season, and them pretty much being the worst team in all of the NFL. It's clear as day that they tanking. Kevin Stefanski has lost all ability to call plays offensively. Why is he still the coach?
What made this situation worse was how quietly it all started. No fireworks at first, no viral clips, no dramatic headlines. Just decisions stacking on top of decisions, each one feeling more careless than the last. Shedeur Sanders stepped onto the field for his second NFL start. And if you only glanced at the box score, you'd miss the real story entirely. Real fans weren't fooled. They could see the bigger issue wasn't what happened between the lines. It was what happened before kickoff. Development wasn't the priority. Preparation wasn't protected. This felt less like a plan and more like throwing a young quarterback into chaos and hoping confidence would magically survive. Behind closed doors, choices were being made that didn't line up with growth or stability. It looked reckless, like an experiment designed backward, banking on silence instead of scrutiny. And then came the moment that stopped everything cold. Nachos frozen mid-bite. Conversations cut short.
For Stefanski's job, I wanted to talk about it on a few levels. One, when there's a white person over you just doing everything to stop your success. It was really bothering me.
It's obvious.
And is it obvious
you think that's what's happening?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, if it were just this game in isolation, I would say that they're just trying to lose and they're sticking to the tanking program. Wow. With how the draft went, with their season and how it went, with them picking the Dillon kid and trying to put all the faith in him, just their behavior throughout the season says that this is a sabotage. We just don't.
The head coach admitted, out loud, that Shedeur Sanders entered his NFL debut without a single first-team practice rep. That wasn't just surprising, it was alarming. And once those words were spoken, there was no walking them back. That's when everything truly flipped upside down. 0 reps. None at all. Not a single real rehearsal with the receivers he was expected to trust when the lights came on Sundays. No timing built. No chemistry established. No real understanding of how the offense actually moves, breathes, and reacts under pressure. Just vibes, crossed fingers, and a helmet drifting somewhere in the football universe like preparation was optional. Analysts didn't sugarcoat it for a second. Former players didn't either. The tone shifted immediately, and the language got sharp. Words usually reserved for corporate disasters and legal disputes started popping up in football conversations. Social media became one massive echo chamber, all asking the same question in different ways. How do you draft a quarterback, label him the future, sell hope to the fan base, and then treat preparation like a side quest you can skip? Meanwhile, Deion Sanders was watching everything. Every snap, every decision, every press conference filled with confident explanations that somehow explained nothing at all.
Very next play, they took Shedeur Sanders off the field so they can run Wildcat, which Quinshon Judkins did score on the play, but why are they taking him off the field? Not only did they do that once that game, they did it twice. They ran Wildcat again with Quinshon Judkins, who got in for a touchdown. Let me ask you, do you ever remember the Browns running Wildcat and taking Dillon Gabriel off the field when he was starting those 6 weeks? And we all know the drafting of Shedeur Sanders was clearly an owner's pick, while Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, they wanted Dillon Gabriel. That was their guy. And that's why Shedeur, ever since arriving to Cleveland, had to work his way up from QB4 to now the starter of the team.
His patience, which has never been unlimited, slowly evaporated. And when Coach Prime goes quiet, it's not calm, it's warning. Silence in this case spoke louder than any public outburst ever could. Then came the Raiders game. Shedeur Sanders stepped in and did exactly what skeptics said he couldn't. Over 200 yards through the air. Command, poise, control. He led a convincing win, and suddenly Cleveland felt something dangerous creeping back in. Optimism.
By ESPN Cleveland and Rappaport that the Cleveland Browns have not made a decision on Kevin Stefanski's status as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns for next year. Listen what they said. ESPN Cleveland, no final decision has been made on head coach Kevin Stefanski's future with the Cleveland Browns. If Jimmy Haslam decides...
The stadium woke up. Hope stretched its legs again. For a brief moment, it felt like things were finally aligning. And then the game ball went somewhere else. That single moment set everything off. Not because of ego, not because of entitlement, but because it fit a growing pattern that fans couldn't ignore anymore. A short leash, conservative play calls, pulling him out when rhythm started to build. Creativity that somehow always ended with the quarterback standing on the sideline watching momentum fade away. Patterns don't lie, and coincidences don't last forever. Then came the coldest reveal of all. The head coach admitted he didn't really know Deion Sanders. No relationship, no communication, no connection, just distance and detachment. That's not strategy, that's a gamble. And it left one uncomfortable question hanging in the air, unanswered and unavoidable. Was Shedeur Sanders ever truly part of the long-term plan? Because his first real rep with his top receiver didn't come in practice. It didn't happen behind closed doors. It happened live, against an NFL defense, with cameras rolling and nowhere to hide. That's not how chemistry is built. That's how doubt creeps in and trust problems are born. Timing doesn't magically appear on Sundays. Confidence doesn't grow in chaos.
Shedeur, anybody know my son, I understand he's a professional. Like, he's going to go into a meeting with headphones on. Like, y'all, come on, man.
Now that this clip is going viral, there are some people who are saying, of course Deion's going to say that. That's his son. What else would he say? And there are other people that are saying, like, hey, this is a man, Shedeur Sanders, who's had a camera in his face since he was a kid, and he stepped up at every level. So why would he start being disrespectful, not prepared,
When preparation is skipped, it doesn't just affect performance. It affects belief. And belief is everything for a young quarterback trying to find his footing at the highest level. Still, the most impressive part of this entire saga wasn't the confusion, the questionable decisions, or the public unraveling. It was Shedeur Sanders himself. With every reason imaginable to let frustration spill out, he chose discipline instead. A reporter tried to bait him into controversy, fishing for headlines and sound bites, and Shedeur shut it down calmly. No eye-rolling. No passive-aggressive shots. Just composure and an understanding that this game is bigger than one moment. He defended the process. He showed respect. He carried himself like the adult in the room. And somehow that made everything else around him look even worse. Because restraint doesn't always cool things off. Sometimes it sharpens the tension.
They lied on Shedeur. Check it out. Deion Sanders for the first time publicly gives his candid thoughts on Shedeur sliding to the 5th round. He thinks people didn't want to see him at the next level, so they took that out on Shedeur.
I know there's a lot of rumors about the next level, and I can't see that. I can't see the next level. And I think a couple people who may have taken shots at my kids, they were afraid that I would go to that next level. And that's where the shots came from. All you got to do is just sit back and listen.
Now, Deion would elaborate more on this by saying some people put out false reports about Shedeur.
Deion Sanders knows his son won't swing publicly. He knows Shedeur plays the long game. And that means if someone steps in to protect the narrative, it won't be quiet, and it definitely won't be subtle. Hanging over all of this like a dark cloud is the Deshaun Watson contract, a fully guaranteed financial anchor dragging the roster down. $46 million for 0 snaps. Flexibility shrinking by the week. Every mistake magnified into a full-blown crisis. The offensive line struggles to stay consistent. The receiver room lacks depth. The margin for error is razor thin. Former quarterbacks have said what everyone already sees. This is not a quarterback-friendly situation, no matter who lines up under center, which makes the handling of Shedeur Sanders even harder to explain. If everything around him is fragile, why wouldn't preparation be sacred? Why wouldn't development be the one area you overinvest in? Unless development was never the priority to begin with. And yet, through all the disorder, Shedeur kept flashing, a deep touchdown thrown under pressure, a late drive marked by poise and command, moments you simply can't teach. The talent never vanished, the confidence never cracked.
This is wild. Kevin Stefanski under major fire, under major heat for apparently, allegedly lying about Cleveland Brown players. Now, we all know the sabotage has been in. We had owner Jimmy Haslam step in. He's getting rid of linemen who he feels are a part of the sabotage. That's why you just seen somebody get removed. He's bringing in new guy.
While everything spun around him, he stayed centered. Now, for the first time, a full week of preparation arrives. Real reps, a real plan. On paper, it should feel like progress. Instead, it lands wrapped in tension. Because the real damage isn't to ability, it's to trust. Trust between a father and a franchise. And Deion Sanders is still quiet, which might be the loudest statement of all. Because when he speaks, he doesn't deal in hints, emojis, or cryptic captions. When Coach Prime decides silence has done its job, the message won't sneak into the conversation. It will take it over. Every show, every timeline, every debate desk, scrambling to point fingers and assign blame. Cleveland feels that pressure building. The front office knows it. The coaching staff hears the footsteps getting closer. This stopped being about wins and losses a long time ago. That part already passed. What this is really about now is respect. Respect for the process. Respect for preparation. And whether a franchise with decades of quarterback scars actually learned anything from its own history.
Kevin Stefanski must be fired. I'm going to say it again and again and again. Kevin Stefanski did not want Shedeur Sanders, didn't even want him in the 5th round. Kevin Stefanski has done everything in his power to keep Shedeur Sanders from succeeding in Cleveland as a 5th round pick against all odds. Even yanking Shedeur again.
Because this situation doesn't fade quietly. It either gets addressed head on or it blows up in real time. The next game will tell part of the story. The next press conference will reveal even more. But the real moment hasn't arrived yet. That moment comes when Deion Sanders decides silence is no longer enough. When that happens, Cleveland won't just be talking football. It'll be talking about the day Coach Prime drew a line and dared everyone to step over it. The Browns seem to be treating this like just another quarterback situation, another developmental hiccup, another rough patch they believe can be smoothed over with careful messaging and calm tones. But this isn't that kind of problem. This is the kind that waits patiently, arms crossed, ready to become front-page news the second it gets an opening. Deion doesn't operate on hope. He operates on leverage. And right now, the leverage is massive. Every questionable snap, every conservative call, every moment Shedeur Sanders is pulled in the name of experimentation. Each one adds another brick to a wall already towering over the season. And through all of it, Shedeur keeps doing the most inconvenient thing possible for everyone involved. He stays composed. No sulking, no gestures, no eye rolling. He answers carefully. He plays the long game.
Do y'all need to see clear as day Kevin Stefanski hates Shedeur? To see clear as day that Kevin Stefanski is trying to sabotage Shedeur? Clear as day that Kevin Stefanski will sacrifice the integrity of the game. He will sacrifice wins because he hates Shedeur Sanders so much. What sense does it make that your rookie quarterback has 350 passing yards? He has 4 touchdowns, 3 passing, 1 rush.
He refuses to let chaos define him. That discipline is exactly why his father is watching so closely. Because restraint from Shedeur doesn't mean acceptance. It means patience. Cleveland still has a chance to change how this story ends. But that window isn't wide open anymore. The door isn't slammed shut, but it's no longer welcoming either. It's hanging there, creaking, waiting on a decision. Because once trust is broken, no amount of polished press conferences or carefully scripted answers can rebuild it, and everyone involved knows it.